Today's video, we're going to be checking out the Boss Fight Studios Vitruvian Hacks Series 2. This is the Orc Conqueror. Now, one thing I like that Boss Fight has done with their packaging is they've made it removable, so you don't have to worry about cutting anything initially. Just simply a case of peeling back one of the tabs. You can see how the tabs are folded over on the sides there. There's also a little hanging peg, so you can clip that onto a peg wall, or if you want to push pin that onto your wall. Anyways, you can go ahead and just slide this off, and you've got your card. There's the front of it. And all your character's contents are inside. So you don't actually have to, when, say, for example, you want to take it out, have a look at it. They've made it for collectors so that you can simply just slide this back on. And I really like that. I wish more companies could do that. And again, you're just sliding that back into the little grooves. There we go. And then just slides that back into place. You have to kind of get it over top of the actual clamshell part that has the figure in it. Again, you just slide that into place. There we go. Had to get it over that one section. And you've got it back in, well, somewhat packaged form. Just want to fold this back into place. There we go. And you've got yourself the figure all back in packaging. I really like that. Before we spend what will probably be the greater part of this review looking at all his accessories and all the ways you interchange the figure, let's start with getting some dimensions. The Orc Conqueror stands approximately 4¼ inches in height. Now, to say this figure has his fair share of accessories would be an understatement. He has quite a considerable amount, all of which we will get into in a second, but let's look at the first thing, the figure completely out of packaging. This is the defaulted look. I haven't done anything different to it other than just taking it out of packaging. So what we do have defaulted is a bearded head sculpt. Has some very cool paintwork done to the overall figure. Sculpt is fantastic. Got the little fur on the bottom of his boots, as well as fur pelts wrapped around his arms, his waist. Head sculpt, really liking it. This is the bearded head sculpt, but he also has an unbearded head sculpt as well. Blood-piercing eyes, which looks like they're sitting inside yellow eyeballs. Some piercings there on the side of his ears, or on his ears, and he's got a piercing right on the middle of his nose. Like the veracity of his face sculpt. Then, what you can also do too, is he comes with an interchangeable head. Fear not for the fact that the ball joint comes out with the head, because the interchangeable head has the ball joint already in it. So we just bring that out and peg that back into place. Initially, I thought that the ball joint, there was only one ball joint for the entire figure, and it's actually smart that they gave you the ball joints already in the sockets, so you don't have to worry about trying to force those ball joints out to change out the heads. Here he is next to his unbearded version. You could crap load army build these till the cows come home, man. I mean, you can go to town. Between the interchangeable head sculpts and then, of course, all the different accessories that he comes with, I'm really thinking army building these. You can get like the main Orc Conqueror, and then you can basically get all his minions with him. Head sculpts are relatively the same to one another, other than one's got the beard, one doesn't. This one does have the piercing also on the front of his nose, whereas the unbearded one does not. But again, like, you can really mix and match these. You can go crazy with these. They're called Vitruvian Hacks, which stands, by the way, for Highly Articulated Character Kit System, which is really the best way to describe these, in the sense that you can just mix and match these until you get a design that you're happy with. Or if you want to pick up a couple of these, you can mix and match them so they all look unique to one another. So where do we start next? Okay, well, you know what? They also They come with their own display base. Boss Fight Studios. I like the look of the base quite a bit, actually. And he has peg holes on the undersides of his feet. I say he. It could very well be a she. Not the most attractive of she's, but we'll just say he for the rest of this review. Peg his feet into the display base, like so. And again, you've got a nice little showpiece. The figure actually stands quite well on its own, but a base certainly goes a long way also. There's the underside of it. Okay, so let's look at some of the other accessories that this guy comes with. Comes with 4 different helmets. I'm actually going to use this helmet for this particular head sculpt, because I think it looks more just like a traditional kind of drone, or like a how to describe it, kind of like the more just soldier orcs, and then you've got again the Conqueror orc that goes with him. This helmet, I find of the helmets, is a little more difficult to get onto his head. I don't know if it's likely probably because of the ears, but it doesn't sit the greatest. Let's see if I can actually get it on here. It doesn't sit the greatest onto his head. In fact, it might be a little easier, there we go, to get it on his head, and then perhaps from there attaching it back into the neck. There we go. So he has this head sculpt, or this helmet. And then he's got all these extra like face plates. And the face plates, or the front pieces of the helmet, all have these little circular sockets. So they just attach to the little sides here. Maybe easiest to do this while the helmet is on. You may choose just to do it without the helmet on the orc, but it should fit just over top of itself. One side there, and then the other side. And you eventually get a look that looks like this. One of my only few gripes of the figure itself is the helmet's difficult to get onto their head, and a lot of that I think is because the ears are in place, but the face plates, or the front armored plates of the helmet, aren't the easiest to get into place. They don't sit. A lot of times you actually have to just kind of rest it onto the pegs rather than pegging it into place. I don't feel like you get the most secure attachments. But it does stay in place once it's there. I really like this one, this particular one. Reminds me of something I would have seen from like Willow. It's got a nice kind of shiny gunmetal presentation to it. Really digging the look of it. Also kind of looks Klingon with the top plate there. So there's that faceplate. There's also this one right here, which we'll get into on the head. And again, it just doesn't sit the greatest, I have to admit. Not really sure why it doesn't. I think it's probably because the front here isn't as wide as it should be. Like they sculpted the face, the armor front, smaller than actually what the helmet is, because it doesn't stay well in place. And then there's this one here. Again, it kind of reminds me of Willow. If you want to do completely without the helmet, and I think for this as well, I'm going to take this head sculpt off. I'm going to replace it back with the bearded one. I just like the look of this one. Once you get that one in place, I also want to show this one. I love this helmet. I adore you, helmet. It is a little on the pricky side though on the top, so be mindful of that. And that just again fits over, mindful that you don't prick yourself. Fits over the head like so. This one fits a little bit easier actually over the head versus the this helmet here. And I really like the look of this one. Same sort of coloring, it's that silver gunmetal color. It's got a really neat presence to it. And actually works quite well for some of the other accessories that we're going to look at now. He comes with these giant would be an understatement, these giant shoulder pad blades, these spikes. Now, for that, you have to move these straps on his torso out of the way. Move this one up so you can see it. And when you move them out of the way, you immediately see these holes on their shoulders. You just go ahead and attach the peg into that hole. Mindful that the spikes are also prickly. And we do the same on the other side. Take the shoulder pad and attach it into that little hole, like so. And you get something that looks like that. Liking the look of that one. He also gets this extra kind of fur pelt, which you could either wear from the front or you could wear from the back. And to do that, you just take the shoulder pads back out. There we go. There's one. Take out the other one. And you can fit the pegs from the shoulders through the loops of the pelt. There's one. And take the other one, feed that through. There we go. And again, you could either have it, say for example, this way, or you can flip it around. And you can have the pelt this way on his back. Either way, there's no real right or wrong way to do it. It's just a matter of how you want to have your figure displayed. I kind of like having the pelt more on his back myself, but you can also have it just running from the front. The beauty of these figures is there are so much ways to customize them. You can do really whatever you want with them. And you've got the pelt on the back. Again, you could have it the other way around really if you wanted to. I just chose to do it this way. One of the other accessories, I didn't know right away where it went. It was these extra little kind of plates with spikes on them. Thought they might have gone on the elbow. Thought they might have gone on the shoulder. It turns out that there's this little slot on his leg. And these just attach into those slots. They're a little tricky at times to fit in there, as a lot of times they don't seem to get the most secure attachments. There we go, there's one. And we go ahead and do the other one here. And it just fits into the place like so. Now one could say why they didn't just simply add those in the first place. Well, again, if you want to have, say, picked up a couple of these, you could have some with the spikes on them, some without the spikes. The only, again, downside to it is these don't stay in place very well. You have to apply a lot of pressure, get them in place, and you can see that they don't quite stay in as well as they should. Is it likely going to be something I'm going to display him with? Probably not. I may not necessarily display him with it anyways, but I do like the fact that they would have included them with him. Alright. So let's talk about his weapons. Also comes, by the way, with a pair of interchangeable hands. Now, his hands currently are open hands, but he does get a second pair as well. And for his weapons, he comes with this really awesome looking wooden shield. Not only does the wood look really good, but I like that it's got slashes and carved, like damaged areas to the actual blade. Like even the areas, the outer area that would have been a metal ring, you can see has just been banged, and axes probably have gone through it. Hammers, axes and knives, swords, anything. Here's the back side of it. I thought that this might have detached, but it actually is not the case. He has the looplets here for his hands, but it seems like he holds the shield more so like this, rather than running the hand through there, because there's not really enough sufficient clearance there to run that through his actual forearm. And we can go ahead and just attach this. Just open up his hand slightly. There we go. And you can attach the shield into his hand. And between that and bending the shield, you can have him holding it like so. These I'm really super excited for. He comes with this forged, very crudely forged blade. It literally looks like he just took a large shard of metal or stone and just kind of crafted together some sort of slashing weapon with it. He's taped up the bottom end of it, but the rest of it stays relatively crude. And it's got that just chipped away sort of, almost like stone to it. Got a really neat design. I also quite like this as well. I guess you would call it a mallet. Looks like it was also made from wood. As you can see, some cracking there in the wood, the actual head of the mallet. And he's got the wrapped up taped around the handle. Nice gunmetal silver there on the front, on either side I should say, and on the bottom. This, of all the accessories, is my personal favorite, and likely how I'm going to be displaying him. Just pry open the hand and fit that into place. And he can wield his giant battle hammer. It's probably more a hammer than it is a mallet. One of the other things too I want to mention, just take this off, take his shield off too. One of the other levels of customization you can do too is when you're changing out the hands, you can pull the hand out, and you can also remove the pelt or the actual fur that's wrapped around his arm as well. So it just gives you a little bit again of customization. You can do something a little bit differently to it. So here's with the fur and here's without. Now looking at his posability, I think what I might do is I'll take the spikes off. There's one. Take off the other. There's two. Take that off as well. And very carefully, we'll try to take the helmet off. There we go. And we'll put that back into place, just so nothing's really in the way when we look at his posability, because he actually has a fair bit. Anyone growing up with G.I. Joes, this basically has the exact same posability. So you have your ball joint in your head, but as you probably saw, he's got two ball joints. One ball joint that sits in the base of the neck, one ball joint that sits in the base of the head. So he gets essentially two ball joints. Universal joints on the arms, they hinge outward, as well as full rotation all the way around. Bend at the elbow, rotation in the forearm, and rotation in the hand. That's the upper torso ball joint. Doesn't appear that he's got a lower hinge or a lower swivel on the waist. Has a split on the leg, forward and back. Has a double hinge on the knee. And it doesn't look like he's got a swivel on the boots, but he does have very sufficient ankle pivot on the foot. Rocks back and forth as well. And as we had already discussed, holes on the undersides of his feet as well. The Orc Conqueror's got some really nice design elements to him, like the sculpt, and overall I like the paint execution that they did to the figure itself. Of course, one's got to love the fact that he comes with as many accessories as he does, and much like the name says, highly articulated character kit system. That's exactly what you can do with these. You can mix and match them to your heart's content, and pick up certainly a whole bunch of these where they can have varying designs from one another. The only frustration I had during the course of this review was getting the front faceplate on the helmet actually situated in place. Ultimately, I just kind of wedged the front plate onto his helmet, and it seems to stay in place, but I think maybe what they could have done is made that front faceplate just a little bit wider, or maybe the pegs just a little bit further forward, so that could have pegged in place a little bit better than what it did. Still a superposable, roughly 3 3/4 inch figure, tons of accessories, definitely one that you would want to be picking up and adding to your collection. Currently, you can pick these up over at Boss Fight Studios, and the price point for all of these H.A.C.K. Highly Articulated Character Kit systems are $24.99. A little bit more expensive, but the fact that you're getting as much customization as you can from them, and you're already getting a really cool, super articulated, super detailed figure, I think the price point does warrant it because for all the stuff that you're getting with the figures. Again, I'll put the link down below to Boss Fight Studios if you want to head over there and pick up either this one or some of the other Vitruvian hacks for yourself. The link will be down below. Certainly as well, guys, stay tuned. We're going to be doing some more videos, of course, on this channel. If you haven't had a chance yet to hit that little subscribe button down below, make sure you do so, as you'll never miss a beat when it comes to future videos. As always, thanks for watching as you always do. I'll see you next time.